The Appalachian Trail. It is more than just a path. It is a 2,000-mile ribbon of wilderness, stretching from the mountains of Georgia to the forests of Maine. It is a cathedral of nature, a challenge, and for thousands of hikers every year, it is a community. A rolling, temporary town of shared shelters, trail magic, and logbooks filled with stories. But this story is about what happens when that community vanishes. When the trail falls silent. In the early spring of 2024, Elias Thorne arrived at the southern terminus on Springer Mountain, Georgia. Elias was not a novice. He was 62 years old, a retired forester, a man who understood the woods better than he understood most people. He had planned this thru-hike for a decade. But the trailhead was wrong. It was quiet. An unnatural, heavy quiet. The ranger station, usually busy with registrations, was closed. A small, laminated sign taped to the window read, "Closed indefinitely due to unforeseen circumstances." Elias found the first trail register, the logbook where hikers announced the start of their journey. He opened it. It should have been filled with names, with excitement, with dates from the past few days. Instead, the last 5 pages were almost empty. Scrawled across them, in thick, desperate strokes of a black marker, was a single word. Don't. What could silence America's most famous trail? And why was one man, Elias Thorne, determined to walk into that silence when everyone else had clearly, and urgently, fled? What kind of warning would be enough to make you turn back? Elias shouldered his pack, tightened the straps, and took his first step north. He would be the only one. The last backpacker on the Appalachian Trail. He began his hike. The first few days were surreal. The trail, usually marked by the chatter of other hikers, was his alone. He described the silence as heavy, not peaceful. The birds were quiet. The squirrels, usually bold, were absent. He reached the first major shelter. And he found the first sign of them. The shelter wasn't damaged. It was abandoned. 2 expensive, ultralight tents were still standing, their flaps snapping in the wind. A cook pot sat on a cold fire ring, half filled with oatmeal. Full fuel canisters lay nearby. Bags of expensive, freeze-dried food were left open. It was as if dozens of hikers had simply dropped what they were doing and vanished mid-activity. Elias, a practical man, was unsettled. He checked the shelter's logbook. This one had entries. But they were paranoid, frantic. One read, "Something in the sound. I can't get it out of my head." Another, "It's the song. The song from the mountain. It makes you want to walk off trail. Don't listen." Elias Thorne knew the mountains. He had heard winds, he had heard animals. He had never heard a song. He dismissed it as trail fatigue, perhaps a shared hysteria. He packed up a few of the abandoned fuel canisters, waste not, want not, and pressed on. Elias pushed onward, his routine as a woodsman grounding him. He told himself there was a rational explanation. A sudden storm warning. A chemical spill. A virus. But the pristine condition of the gear bothered him. He reached Blood Mountain, a rugged peak known in local folklore. At the summit, where hikers often stopped to rest, he found the shrine. It was a single, dead oak tree. And from its branches, dozens, perhaps hundreds, of hiking boots were hung, tied together by their laces. All sizes. All brands. From high-end technical boots to simple trail runners. They clacked together in the wind, a grim wind chime. It was not a celebration. It was a memorial. A marker for the missing. Elias, the man of logic, stood there for a long time. The sight of it shook him more than the empty shelters. This was deliberate. This was an admission that all those people were gone. What do you make of a sight like that? Is it a marker from a survivor, or a warning from whatever is out there? What theory would you form, standing alone on that silent peak? Thank you for staying with us on this journey. Elias Thorne's story is a compelling one, and your attention allows us to tell it. But the most profound, and the most disturbing, part of his trek was still to come. Weeks passed. Elias moved through Tennessee, into Virginia. The isolation was total. He hadn't seen another human being in over a month. The psychological toll was immense. He began talking to himself, then arguing with himself. He was a practical man, and his mind was struggling to find a practical answer. Then the storm hit. A brutal, 3-day nor'easter that turned the trail into a river of mud and fog. He got turned around, disoriented. When the fog finally cleared, he was on a path he didn't recognize. He checked his map, his compass. He was miles off the official Appalachian Trail. He was on what looked like an old section of the trail, a part that had been officially rerouted in the 1950s and should have been reclaimed by the forest. But this path was clear. It was perfectly maintained. The ground was clear of debris. And the trail markers, they weren't the white blazes of the At. They were small, strange, carved wooden figures, almost like birds, nailed to the trees. He felt a pull. A sense that this path wanted him. This wasn't a forgotten trail. This was a trap. Or, perhaps, an invitation. He was being led. Deep in the Smoky Mountains, exhausted, he took refuge in a high-elevation stone shelter. He was now hundreds of miles into his solitary journey. That night, as the temperature dropped below freezing, he heard it. It started as a crackle from his small, battery-operated radio. He hadn't turned it on in weeks, assuming it was useless. A voice emerged from the static. It was not a broadcast. It was a calm, gentle, disembodied voice. It wasn't speaking to him. It was, reciting. The voice said, Jacob Brent, age 24. Came to the trail to find himself after college. He was afraid of heights. His favorite food was peanut butter. The voice paused, then continued. Sarah Jenkins, age 31. Hiking for her brother, who couldn't. She missed her dog. She was worried about the rain. Elias froze. He recognized those names. He had seen them in the frantic logbooks back in Georgia. The voice continued, all night. It recited the hopes, the fears, the memories, and the favorite foods of the hikers who had vanished. It wasn't a ghost. It was, an archive. The mountain itself, calmly, dispassionately, archiving the stories of those it had taken. Elias didn't sleep. He listened until dawn, as the mountain told the tales of the lost. He finally reached the northern terminus. Mount Katahdin, in Maine. The final, brutal climb. The mountain was empty. The trail was silent, save for the wind and the voice in his radio, which now recited stories day and night. At the summit, he touched the famous wooden sign. He had made it. He was the only one. He found the final logbook, protected in its metal box. It was pristine. He opened it. The book was full. Page after page, filled with entries. But it was all in the exact same, precise, beautiful handwriting. He read the last entry. It described the journey of a hiker named Elias Thorne. It described his 62 years. His career as a forester. His skepticism. His arrival at the trailhead. The final sentence of the entry read, he reached the end. He felt an immense sense of peace. He was tired of being the only one. He was ready to join the chorus. Elias looked up from the book. The entry was complete, except for the signature. He was the last backpacker. He had a choice. Turn around, hike back down, and be the last man to ever see the trail, the only one to carry the warning. Or, sign the book, and become the final story. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out his pen. Elias Thorne was never registered as completing the trail. He was never seen at the ranger station at the base of the mountain. He was never seen again. His story became just another myth. A whisper in the small towns that border the 2,000-mile path. Was he a victim of a mountain that grew lonely? Or did he, after a lifetime of solitude, find a final, permanent community? What do you believe Elias wrote in that final logbook? Did he sign his name, and join the chorus? Or did he, in his last act, write a new warning for the next generation? Share your theories in the comments below. Thank you for joining us at Backpacker Stories. If you believe in the power of a story, subscribe to our channel. We are not a travel vlog, we are a space for the myths born on the open road, and the open trail. Lace up your boots, and click the video on your screen for our next tale. We'll be waiting for you.